Rob, yesterday we discussed Shaq's contention that Steph Curry was in the GOAT conversation. And you and I, disagreed vehemently, as did many people. But I was looking on social media at some of the comments under our clips, and I didn't read a ton, but I did read the few that I read. The majority of them thought, he could be in the conversation. Now, some were saying if he's in the top 10, he's in the conversation, and so on and so forth. And that didn't sway me. There's no way Steph is in the GOAT conversation. What I would say is this, though, Rob. If we're talking about a Mount Rushmore of NBA players all time, not the best four. My top four is Jordan, LeBron, Kareem, Magic. But if we're just talking about most influential, most impactful, I think there's an argument for that Steph would be on the Mount Rushmore. Certainly a better argument for the Mount Rushmore than the GOAT. Do you want to hear who I think could be a four? And it was just tough. But I think, and this is strictly impact, it's not the best players, but I think Bill Russell, obviously, just for his dominance, 11 rings in 13 years, won it as a player coach, what he did at the beginning kind of NBA basketball, at least integrated NBA basketball. And then I thought about Dr. J for bringing that style of play to kind of quote unquote mainstream basketball with the ABA and then the NBA. But at that time when Doc, those 4 years or so when he was in the league before Magic and Bird came in, they were still on tape delay. So Magic and Bird come in, and you'd really want both of them on because they did save the league. But if I think I can only have one, so I'd have to go Magic because I think he gave you pretty much everything Bird did and one more. And then Jordan, just because he's the best ever, and he was really that perfect mix of incredibly athletic player with an incredibly smart and fundamentally sound player. And obviously his dominance showed because of it. And then I think Steph, when you talk about, because Steph has changed the game. The way nobody since Jordan has changed the actual way basketball is played more than Steph Curry. So I think that could be, there's an argument for those for Russell, Magic, Jordan. He changed the way the game is viewed and played too. And then Steph.
I think when people talk about Steph changing the game, I think you got to ask yourself, was his change for the better of the NBA? And I'm not so sure of that. That's the part where I think if you talk to people, do you like this NBA? People, and at one point it had gotten ridiculous where everybody's chucking up threes, even guys who really weren't even three-point shooters, because this is what Steph was shooting at the half court and at the logo and all that, and people just started to put it up like that. And I don't know. I think that he changed the NBA. This is more the way that they played in Europe. And Steph, no doubt about it, making those shots made people take another look at making threes and the difference from the game that we like. I was there in Detroit when Darko was drafted. So right. I just have a perspective from that. And he was roundly criticized that he was playing in the perimeter, could shoot threes. The guy was almost 7 foot tall, Chris. And he was ridiculed by Larry Brown. They just like
Larry buried him on the bench.
Like, dude, if you're not gonna get down the paint, you're not gonna do this. Really.
Phil Jackson was similar with Kristaps Porzingis. He played him more because they weren't as good.
But you know what I mean? They didn't.
Similar.
Right? They did not. They did not like that style of play, despite that's how they play in Europe, and now you see all the threes and all the stuff that goes on. So now we're kind of there. But I don't know. I think the NBA has changed for sure, Chris, but I'm not sure for the better. I'm not sure I really like this style of basketball where almost everything is the perimeter, everything's a long three. It's either, at one point it had gotten so bad, everything was a dunk or, right? It was either a dunk or a layup at the basket.
The All-Star game.
Yeah, or the mid-range game, even though there's some great mid-range players, not a lot use it. So I'm going to say, yeah, he changed the game, but I'm going to say he changed it for the worse. So is that the reason to put him on Mount Rushmore? Would that be?
I'll answer your question, but would you agree? And again, it's not the best four, but impactful. I think you can argue Dr. J. You can argue you got to have Bird and Magic on there. I don't think LeBron has changed the game obviously like Steph. You know what I mean? Like Kobe, LeBron, Shaq, players who, people might put ahead of Steph. Obviously, you can't have Wilt and Russell on, and Russell just won way more. Would you agree with those?
So you're going to say you don't have Wilt Chamberlain despite them changing the rules for him? I think he has to be on there.
I mean, I think I could only have him or Russell. If you want to put him on instead of Russell.
But I'm just saying.
I talked to other people in the past about this, and I think Dr. J, Rob, I think there's a legitimate argument for Dr. J. But when you got four, I mean, obviously you got to make tough decisions.
No, I know. I'm just saying
Russell over Wilt. I can't put Russell and Wilt. I can't put Magic and Bird because I got to leave too many other people off.
Right. But they did change the rules.
Yep, they did.
That's why I think it's hard not to have Wilt Chamberlain on that. Because he changed the way that the game that was played because of his dominance. That they had to neutralize him.
I think that you talked about Steph changing the game, but probably for the worse. I don't blame that on Steph because he doesn't play a style that's reckless. He's a great three-point shooter, so when he shoots threes, it's fine. It's what you want. And he does shoot mid-range. He doesn't do it as much now as he used to, but he's obviously a great mid-range
What's the
shooter.
number of threes he's taking now? Because I know you had brought this up before.
He also scored a lot going to the hoop. But here's where I would push back, and I'm looking up Steph's three-point attempts now. But
yeah.
Where I would push back on you, Rob, is so right now Steph is averaging 28 points a game. He's taking 19 shots or 18.9 shots a game. 11.6 of them are threes.
Wow.
So basically 2/3 of his shots are threes. Luka's second in the league in scoring. Now Luka's taking 23 shots a game, but 10 of them are threes. So that's not quite half of his. De'Aaron Fox, 21.8 shots, 8 of them are threes. I'm looking for guys who's half. Steph
is the only one.
Looks like the only one, like of the top scorers, whose half of his shots are 3-pointers.
Right.
But what I would say is this, Rob, because I don't, you might be right that the game, and not even just at the NBA level, but just overall, maybe it's changed for the worse because of Steph. But I don't blame him for that. And the reason I say that is because we know with Michael Jordan, Jordan changed the game. And here's how I say he changed the game. Before Michael Jordan came in, Rob, it wasn't all about athleticism, what we consider athleticism now. How high can you jump? How quick and fast are you? But because think about the best players before Jordan. Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, Oscar Robertson, Jerry West. Yes, Dr. J was incredibly athletic, but he didn't win like a lot of these guys. Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Kareem. Like, they did it. They had size, but skills. Like Magic and Bird, skills to go with their size. Oscar, skills. Jordan came in, and you remember this, Rob, like, for the next 20 or 30 years, during the Jordan era and beyond, it kind of became all about athleticism. Like, how high can you jump? How long are you? How quick and fast are you? And you had guys like Miles Swift and other guys getting drafted near the top of the draft who had no skills. They were just long and athletic and rangy and all of that. And I actually think that's part of why America fell, I don't want to say behind the world, but the world was still focusing on skills. And our guys were just running and jumping and athletic and one-on-one and handle. Because Jordan, again, one-on-one greatness. So it became ISO heavy. And so I think that's because, now I think that was a change for the worse that was based on Jordan, but it wasn't Jordan's fault because Jordan was smart. Jordan was fundamentally sound. Jordan wasn't just athleticism, but that's what people were drawn to. Oh my gosh, he's flying through the air, dunking on people. Let me do that. Let me get guys that can do that. Same with Steph. Steph is a great passer. Steph is a great ball handler. Steph works hard defensively, even though he's not a great defender. He's a very good rebounder for his size. But what people are drawn to are the threes, the 30-footers and all that. And so I agree with you. It's probably changed for the worse, but I don't hold that against Steph, just like I don't hold it against Jordan.
Okay.